Shalom, shalom, family. This is Elder Ura. Coming to you live briefly from the Black channel. Peace and blessings to all those who've had a wonderful and blessed and prosperous day. Shout out to you, Free Spirit. Appreciate you for tuning in. I'm going to do a brief rebuttal to Chris Harris. Shalom, shalom. Peace, family. DJ Black Charm, peace to you, family. Miss you out. Shout out, man, to y'all War Machine, man. Shout out to Black DJ Black Charm again, man. Just getting it in, man. Trying to kick it up a notch, DJ Black Charm. Man, listen. I'm going to talk about something just briefly, man. I'm going to just give a brief response to Chris Harris. Found it necessary to, again, place my name in the title of one of his videos. I heard he did a brief response to something I did earlier or presented earlier or late last week. And I'm going to get into it real quick. Chris Harris, you either have poor reading comprehension, my brother, or you simply have a confirmation bias that leads you to deceive. That's it. But this is what we're going to get into. And the topic is really talking about Black Jews in West Africa, but more specifically, the Senegalese people, right? And there's some history to this, and Chris Harris found it necessary to simply to try and attack this, to try to give us sort of his confirmation bias on the work that I presented and others. To simply say, no, it isn't. And I say this all the time. To simply say, no, it isn't a rebuttal. It's simply not a rebuttal. But I'm not going to hold you long. I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to just get directly to what I want to share with you guys. Let me share my screen here. And this is what we're going to deal with today. This is a part of a presentation that I did maybe about a year or so ago, maybe 2 years now. I see 2020 on here. I started building this. And the title of this presentation is called Reclaiming Africa. African Hebrews in Pre-Colonial West Africa. And so they really want to try to now make, or Chris Harris has to say, really amongst others, really want to try to say that there's no evidence of Hebrews or Israelites being present in West Africa pre-colonial times. And the reason why pre-colonial times is important here is because they often like to say that these were Christian converts. If you found any evidence of Jews, right, in West Africa, well, the Christian missionaries that came in wouldn't be teaching Judaism. They wouldn't be teaching Judaism. So what we see is people that are in these lands pre-colonial times that are identifying African people as Jews. And so this is information that I brought out. It's nothing new, but every so often you have to revisit it. And I'm going to tell you why people like Chris Harris have a real strong confirmation bias, or they just have simply poor reading comprehension, right? And then they want to present it to you as scholarship. But I want to just get into this presentation real quick because I have so much here to really deal with. Because one thing he talked about is the information that I brought out was not sourced. Well, anyone that knows me, I never present any information that is not sourced. Now, you may argue or have a counter argument to that, but to say I never sourced any information is inadequate. But let's get into it, right? And I really don't want to deal with it because the linger it long, but I simply want to say this, right? Let's deal with this, right? Let's start with Philip Lindsley. He talks about the Black Portuguese Jews. The Black Portuguese and the Bronze Europeans of all sorts found in Africa and Asia assuredly do not prove either a transition from one distinct physiological variety to another, or the creation of any new variety. The works of Philip Lindsley, Miscellaneous Discourse and Essays by Philip Lindsley, page 166. This is in 1866, right? He's not talking about converts here. Not talking about converts. He's talking about Black Portuguese Jews found in Africa and Asia. But I really want to get to the Senegalese. And let's talk about them briefly, because this is what Chris Harris wanted to focus in on, this part of a presentation that I presented before. And so let's get into this really quickly. Because you see, he only attacked the Senegalese information. He didn't attack anything else that I presented, because there is nothing that he can do to argue this. So let's talk about the Black Jews. So we have, again, the Bikharis Jews, or the Bikharis Jews. It says, thus the black color is found not only in individuals as the Black Jews of Portugal, but in tribes, as the Bikharis of the Red Sea, whose hair and character are perfectly Semitic. These are people who are being identified not because of their uh, uh, um, failure to be a part of larger scale communities or their reclusiveness, as Chris Harris tried to argue, that Jews in the west coast of Africa were only being identified as Jews because of their reclusiveness. That's simply an outright lie, and it's false. But you have to be careful, people, to understand when people make these claims that they are simply not telling you the truth. His whole argument about the Senegalese people, and I'm going to get to that, is that they were only identified as Black Jews by Portuguese navigators or explorers because these Portuguese navigators found groups of people in the west coast of Africa who were living reclusive communities or hidden communities or communities where they didn't venture outside of the land that they were found in or discovered in. So this is the argument Christopher Harris tried to make this evening. But we're going to destroy that. We're going to tear that down, right? We're going to tear that down. We're going to get into the article that I presented and read. See, one thing, if you follow me, Chris Harris, you should know the traps by now. You should know the traps. So let's get into it. First, deal with this, Chris Harris again. The Bukhara's Jews. These were not converts. There was no mass Jewish conversion being conducted in the west coast of Africa. There were no large-scale mass conversions by white Jews or Portuguese Jews on the west coast of Africa. For the Portuguese Jews to come, of Spain to come and say, hey, these people remind us of the Black Jews in our own homeland. Now, how are they identifying and why are they identifying these dark, heavenly, melanated people located in the west coast of Africa as being identical or phenotypically identical to the Black Jews that they know in their own homeland? Why are they doing that? They're not talking about mulattoes here. They're not talking about conversos, people who are being, as we say, converted to Judaism. That's not what these explorers are witnessing and saying. They're simply saying these people are identical. When we lay our eyes on them, they look exactly like the Black Jews in Spain. You can't get around that. This is why they're saying identifying these people as Black Jews. That leads us to two conclusions. One, that the Black Jews of Spain or in Portugal were a heavily melanated people. For these Portuguese Spaniard navigators who were sailing around the west coast of Africa and the windward coast and the rice coast of Africa and saying, hey, look, these look like the Black Jews from our homeland. They didn't refer to those people as converts. They referred to them as Black Jews. And they looked at those people and they looked at the people from their homeland and said they look alike phenotypically. That's one. Number two, they never called these people converts. There's no evidence of a large-scale mass Judeo or Judaic conversion that occurs in the west coast of Africa for people to be identifying these groups of people in these lands as Jews. So the conversion argument is really a moot one, especially during pre-colonial times. But let's go a little further. Let's talk about it. John Ogilvy, according to a book written by John Ogilvy in November 1600, September 4th, 1676, a Scottish translator. Actually, he was born in 1600. He passed 1676. He was a Scottish translator, impresario, and a cartographer. A cartographer was one who laid out the land, the lay of the land. They actually drew maps of the land. He talks about the Jews of Portugal during the Spanish Inquisition were Negroes. The Spanish Inquisition, I had to correct Chris on this earlier this week, that the Spanish Inquisition didn't start in the 1700s or the 1800s. It actually began in the 1400s, around 1476, 78. That's when the Spanish Inquisition began. John Oglesby here states that the Jews of Portugal during the Spanish Inquisition were Negroes. In other words, Negroes in Spanish means what? Black or melanated. He's talking about their skin tone, their complexion. The book is entitled America, being the latest and most accurate description of the New World, 1671. In the book, Ogilvy writes about Negro Jews in Portugal who were banished to Portuguese settlements in West Africa during the Spanish Inquisition, which began in the year 1478 and ended in the year 1832. Let me hide that. Let's continue what he said. He says the Portuguese that dwell on this island informed the Netherlands. The few lived above 50 years there, yet notwithstanding great gain tempted them to tarry or wait, several of them having 200 or 300 Negroes that worked in the sugar mill. That John III, King of Portugal, sent a colony thither above 200 years before. 200 years before, whom though the unwholesome air destroyed, yet the place was not yet left desolate. For he sent new inhabitants who first settled in Guinea, next in Angola, and lastly on the island of St. Thomas, that so they might be better used to the air. That the said king sold all those Jews for slaves. What white Jews were sold for slaves? By John III. What white Jew? He's clearly not talking about white Jews. He's talking about black Jews or African looking Jews, heavily melanated looking Jews of dark complexion. He's not talking about mulattoes here. He's talking about Jews. He sold Jews for slaves that refused to embrace what the Roman religion and caused their children to be baptized, from whom coming thither in great numbers, most of the present inhabitants were descended. Let's go back. He referred to them as Negro Jews. Let's continue. Now let's get into it. The Senegalese Jews. This is what Chris Harris really tried to harp on earlier. But I'm going to tell you why his reading comprehension is poor. Now, I brought up this article, so he went into this article to read it and simply to try to debunk actually the information in here, but missed the entire importance of the actual article, right? The story of Senegal's hated reclusive Jewish community. The headline says Portuguese navigators documented their voyages around Africa's shores in the 15th century actually reveal how the Europeans saw the world and the Jews, right? Let me see here. I'm going to show something here. I want to read. Go back to that article. And I wanted to show you guys what Chris Harris purposely tried to deceive the people on. So here's the article. The story of Senegal's hated reclusive Jewish community, right? It says in the 15th century, the Portuguese began to sail south along the West African coast, searching for the sea route to India. Along the way, they landed in all sorts of places along the coast where they traded with the natives and documented everything they saw. This is important. They documented everything they saw. One of these documents, written by an anonymous Portuguese navigator, provides us with a rare glimpse into a very strange phenomenon, a group of Jews who lived in West Africa near the Gambian River. Hold on, let me see that here. Let me get that here. Let me see if I can find that article. Let me see if I can find it because I don't have a subscription to here. But I wanted to show him this. Here it is. Here it is, the same article. Let's see if I can pull it up real quickly. See if it, hopefully it doesn't take me back here. I think it did actually. It did actually take me there. But I wanted to bring out something. Let me do this real quickly. Let me do this real quickly. I want to bring this article up and show you guys how Chris deceived the people. I think I might already have a thing for this already. But anyway, let's read it. All right. Let's read it. It says, one of these documents written by an anonymous Portuguese navigator provides us with a rare glimpse into a very strange phenomenon. A group of Jews who lived in West Africa near the Gambian River. What white folks was living in the Gambian River? None. It says some of the people here believed in Muhammad, but the majority are idol worshippers, wrote the nameless Portuguese navigator. In this land, there are Jews known as Gauls, and they are black like the rest of the inhabitants. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. They're documenting what they see. They're documenting what they see. So let's continue. Let's keep that in mind. But they have no synagogues and do not conduct Jewish ceremonies. Watch this. Given this, why was our Portuguese navigator convinced that they were Jews? The rest of his letter sheds some light on the matter, right? And then we're going to get into something else. Because this is what Chris was trying to harp on, right? He says they do not live with the other blacks, but separately, he reported, because they do not dare enter the villages. They locate themselves behind the houses of the ruler of the village, and at dawn they sing his praises until he grants them a portion of millet. And then they go. If they didn't do this, the rest of the blacks would not tolerate them. So great is their hatred for them, which forbids them from entering any house except for that of the ruler of the village. If they find them inside the village, they are beaten with sticks. Let's continue. Many societies in West Africa have wandering storytellers known as Griot, Jalai, Jawal, Galul, etc. It seems that these are the same Gauls our Portuguese navigators saw. These traveling troubadours commanded great respect and had a defined role in the tribal society of Western Africa. However, they also lived separately from the rest of the inhabitants of the region and lived off their art. Now, Chris made the statement that these people were converts. These black Jews that are being identified living near the Gabion River, that they were converts. No evidence and no source for that these people were converts. The historian, the recorder is simply saying this is what we saw near the Gambian River. And they look like the black Jews in Spain. But clearly these are separate people. Now watch this. Now let's follow the article. It says, so why did the Portuguese navigator decide they were Jews? This is what Chris Harris thought he was really doing something. Watch this. It says, when he arrived in Africa and noticed a completely separate group of people, and furthermore, a seemingly hated group, he could only use the terms he knew to describe them. Because the only group in the world that he came from matching such a description was the Jews. The Gauls all of a sudden became Jews for him, even after he himself admitted they did not conduct a single known Jewish ritual, right? Let's unpack what has just been said here. The writer here is saying that the only way this Jewish explorer, or the reason why this Jewish explorer is identifying these people as black Jews, is not simply because of their reclusiveness, but because when he laid eyes on them, they looked like the black Jews. Wait a minute. He's saying these people look like the black Jews. Why is that statement important, Chris Harris? Because it tells us that the black Jews, that the Jews in Spain were actually African-looking people or Negroes or heavily melanated people, because he's making a comparison of the two groups. So that tells us that there were black Jews in Spain. Black Jews, not mulattoes. He's not talking about mulattoes. He's not talking about light-complected Jews here. He's talking about black Jews in Spain being identical to a group of Senegalese people found near the Gambian River. If you ever laid eyes on a Senegal, on a person from Senegal, on the Senegalese people, they are heavily melanated. Heavily melanated people. So as the writer says, he looks upon these Gauls and says, you look like the black Jews, the Negro Jews that I know of in Spain. This is what the writer is postulating, because the author, the Portuguese navigator, never makes this claim. Never makes this claim that he only identifies them because of their reclusiveness. This is what the writer of the Haaretz article is postulating, He's giving his his opinion. He's opining here. The Portuguese navigator never says that I only identify them because of their reclusiveness. He simply says they look like the black Jews in my homeland. That's what he's comparing them to, Chris Harris. And he simply says, oh, they don't commit any known Jewish rituals. Does that make them not Jewish? Does that make them not Jews? Does that make them not Hebrews? Does that make them not Israelites? No, it does not. You, Chris Harris, like the author of this Haaretz article, shoehorned that information into the Portuguese navigator's eyewitness account. He never said, I only identify them because of their reclusivity. He never once says that. So that's your epic fail. Let's continue. More than anything else, the writer of the Haaretz argument says, more than anything else, this story teaches us how we can reach the most isolated and distant corner of the world. We are capable of seeing it only through the perspective we brought with us from home. That's the Haaretz article writer who wrote the article. That's his opinion, Chris Harris, not of the Portuguese navigator. The Portuguese navigator never says this, Chris. He only identified them based on their phenotype. That they identified phenotypically with the black Jews in Spain. These dark, heavily melanated Senegalese Africans on the Gambian River. He says, you look like Jews. See, Chris, that's either only your confirmation bias or you simply have poor reading comprehension. Simple as that. But let's get back. Let's get back. Hebrews and Senegal, right? This is part of what we just read. Now watch this. This is what I was saying about the article. The uniform writers of the Haaretz article try to make the claim that because these Jews in the document did not practice Hebrew customs, they were not really Jews. Most likely, reason why the tribe didn't practice Hebrew tradition is because many Israelites were scattered and lost their culture and identity during their persecution, Chris Harris. Where's your argument against that? You have none. We clearly have people that are not native to the land of Africa, and specifically the tribe of Dan. If you study a book, African Art in West Africa, by William S. Braincroft, he'll tell you that as he observed the tribe of Dan and dealt with them, that they told him that they were from the Levant area. Their ancestors came from the Levant area. Their ancestor's name was Yaqub, which we know is Jacob. And that the people around them in the west coast of Africa, after they migrated from the Levant, the people around them, the African tribes indigenous to the land around them, taught them how to live off of the land. But they weren't of the same stock of people. They weren't native to Africa. Study the book West African Art by William S. Bancroft. He clearly talks about the tribe of Dan, and that's exactly what they say. And then he goes into, even though this is what they say, they still practice or made African art that resembled the other tribes, surrounding African tribes around them. But Chris failed to realize as he's reading the article, the Haaretz article, again, that they try to make the claim that because these Jews in the document didn't practice Hebrew customs, they were not really Jews. You have no evidence for that, and neither do they. None at all whatsoever, Chris Harris. Also, this document is important because it also shows how much the Israelites were hated by the native African population. This also helps debunk the myth that Africans sold other Africans. They both were African, but two different tribes. The local West Africans helped sell Israelites who migrated from Israel, aka Northeast Africa. Right? And so this is basically what I'm trying to get folks like Chris Harris to understand. And I'm going to go through a lot of this information. A lot of this information. It simply shows that these people were simply not converts. This is a writing by Abdurrahman bin Abdallah as-Sadi, according to 17th century Arabic historical document called Tariq al-Fatish in the Tariq al-Sudan. Many Hebrew communities existed throughout West Africa. The Tariq as-Sudan, recorded by Abdurrahman bin Abdallah as-Sadi, translated by Hardis, stated that a Jewish community was formed by a group of Egyptian Jews who had traveled to West Africa through Chad. See also Al-Khatim Tariq al-Fatih 1600. Those Egyptian Jews, which we know probably more than likely were Elephantine Jews. These Egyptian Jews. A little bit further, right? In 1492, Emperor Aski Muhammad came to power in Mali, the previous tolerant region of Timbuktu, and decreed. And this is why we go back to the Senegalese article in which they were talking about the hated Jews and how they would go behind the houses and stand and ask for millet. And if they were there too long, that they would be beaten. That article and that Portuguese navigator's account that he gave of the Senegalese Jews near the Gambian River lines up with this account of Leo Africanus. Listen to what he says. He says in 1492, the Emperor Askir Muhammad came to power in Mali, the previously tolerant region of Timbuktu, and decreed that Jews must convert to Islam or leave. You hear that, Chris Harris? Do you hear that, Alan Brown, Rob Bourne, whatever you call yourself? That Jews must convert to Islam or leave. Practicing Hebrew customs became illegal in Mali. In 1526, the historian Leo Africanus wrote, the king Askir is a declared enemy of the Jews. He will not allow any to live in the city. If he hears it said that a Berber merchant frequents them or does business with them, he confiscates his goods. Do y'all understand? So when you have ignorant people like Rob Bourne, and then you have Chris Harris who talks about, oh, well, they didn't practice any Jewish customs. We have recorded history that was Jewish Judean customs were being outlawed by Muslims who were controlling these parts of the land and controlling these African, Black African Jewish communities. This is what the Portuguese navigator said about the Senegalese. This is also what we read Leon Africanus just said again. That there were laws being made by the Islamic kings that you shouldn't do business with these dark black African Jews, and that you shouldn't consort with them. They were hated. They were hated and not counted among the native Africans. You guys can't get around this information. Edith Bruder, the Black Jews of Africa. She said the West African countries that have Hebrew communities are the same countries that African Americans were kidnapped from during the Atlantic slave trade. Rawborn. Again, the same African countries that African Americans trace their ancestry back to contain Hebrew tribes and communities. Israelite tribes have been found in countries that are not listed above. What is she talking about? These right here. This is Edith Bruder, the author, The Black Jews of Africa, History, Identity, and Religion. In sub-Saharan Africa, you can find Judaic tribes in Ghana, Nigeria, Mali, Uganda, Cameroon, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and even Sao Tome and other countries. Bruder said, many of the Black Hebrew tribes that were documented in the film claim that their ancestors migrated from Israel and Yemen. What are you talking about? Chris Harris? What are you talking about? Rob on. Either your reading comprehension is low or your confirmation bias leads you to deceive. I'm going to wrap this up because I got more for you. Somebody brought up Flavors Josephus the other night as well. In his book, The Great Roman Jewish War from 66 AD to 70 CE, the Roman historian Flavors Josephus stated over thousands of years ago that the Israelites migrated into Africa. He writes, General Vespasian and his son Caesar Titus fought against the Jews. Millions of Jews fled into Africa, among other places, fleeing from Roman persecution and starvation during the siege. Why would they flee into Africa? You don't think they fled to South Africa? You only think they went north? They couldn't have gone north. Impossible. They would have been killed. They fled south into South Africa. And went in Southeast Africa for hundreds of years until the Ottoman Turks came and they fled again, fleeing prosecution and slavery. And they migrated and fled to the west coast of Africa. Won't even get into the Limber tribe. I'll save that later. We'll save that later because you guys can't argue with the DNA evidence. You want to, but you can't. And then I'm also going to get into unpacking Joseph J. Williams' book. I'll unpack this for you guys. But for right now, I'm just going to end my presentation right there. Chris Harris, you don't know what you're talking about, brother. You simply don't know what you're talking about. You got to come with some better information, fam. Come with some better information. And then we have this guy, High Elevation Network, that never brings a source to a conversation. Never brings a source. He even goes further enough saying, I don't have sources. I don't need sources. How do you come to a debate without any sources? How do you have an intellectual conversation? High elevation. What are you elevating yourself to? A higher level of ignorance? You're a moron. What are you talking about? You simply have no integrity in the information you present. You can't get this clown. At least Chris Harris will try to debate you. But this high elevation moron, you can't get him to debate anything. You can't get him in the formal debate because he knows he'll lose every time because he lies. A liar will fail every time. He'll fail every time. So this is what I'm saying. When we're talking about these things and we're talking about sources, you have to listen to, you have to wonder these people that pay attention to what they're saying. Their confirmation bias is prevalent. It's either that or they have very poor or low reading comprehension. This is what I'm saying when you're listening to these guys. So I just wanted to come on this evening and just give a brief rebuttal to Chris Harris as he went through my presentation and tried to bring out the arrest article. Bro, they never talk about the Portuguese navigator that found the black Jews in Senegal along the Gambian River. Never ever said he only identified them because of their reclusiveness, Chris Harris. He said, I identify them as Jews simply because one of the reasons they look like the black Jews in Spain from my homeland. That's what he said. So to say that Israelites or Hebrews didn't exist on the west coast of Africa, I have too much information for you guys to debunk it. Too much information. You guys got to come better than that. Chris Harris, you're not ready for this conversation. I suggest you keep it pushing, homie. You're not ready for this conversation with me. I'm not the one you want with me. Maybe somebody else is, but I'm not the one you want with me. Because you don't have enough source material, you don't have enough information to debunk the preponderance of evidence, the actual evidence, the science, the anthropology, the archaeology. You don't have the information. Shout out to you and Yame. Peace, family. I see Domo in the building. Peace to you, Domo. You don't have it, bro. You're not there. You're not there. So this is what I'm saying, man. Like, just to simply get on YouTube and stream and, you know, simply saying no, it isn't. You hear information, simply saying no, it isn't. Like somebody else we know that thinks they're highly elevated. Simply saying no, it isn't a rebuttal. That just simply makes you a moron. And that's it. You know? And these people, they're at a point right now as to where when you challenge their information, because they've gone on these YouTube platforms and streams for so long, and no one's really pushed back on their information, that they think what they're saying is absolute truth, right? Like Asar Imhotep, whatever he calls himself, earlier did a response to Zion Lex, and shout out to Zion Lex for the rebuttal and showing that Yahweh is not an original African language, but it's a Semitic word. It's a Semitic word. Um, and the concept. So shout out to Zion Lex for bringing that out. I was going to prepare a response myself to Asar Imhotep, but then he comes on tonight to rebut Zion, Zion Lex and simply says, "Oh, he's not worthy enough for me to rebut." We're talking about a discussion of the information. If you disagree, bring a rebuttal. Bring your information. Let's see what it says. Let's have a discussion. Let's debate it. But this is not who you guys are. It's not what you want to do. And when your information gets challenged, you cry and you pout. Or you make up these wild excuses as to why you don't want to debate. You know why that is? Because you're afraid to stand on your square. You're cowards. That's really what it comes down to. You're cowards. When it comes to standing on your square, when it comes to standing on the information that you're presenting. So again, Chris Harris, you can't win this one, bro. This what you did, bro, was trash. Was trash. You know, I don't know, Chris. You just can't get right with this information, man. I'm just calling you can't get right, Harris. So, with that being said, family, I'm gonna shut it down. I've been on for an hour. Chris, you don't want the debate on the Senegalese Jews, bro. You don't want to debate on black Jews in West Africa. They're not all converts. They were not all Portuguese settlers. They were not all mulattoes. They were not all converts that happened post-colonial or during the colonial period. No, absolutely not. You gotta get your scholarship up, Chris Harris. You gotta get your scholarship up. You gotta get your scholarship up. Your argumentation is poor. It's poor. It's poor. So with that being said, family, peace and blessings to y'all, man. Y'all be easy.